I'm going to show you how to put a clock in beat. If you can't get your clock to do this, where you take the pendulum off and the leader wire swings, and you could stop the leader wire with your finger and let go, it continues to swing, there's something wrong with your clock. It needs to be serviced. But putting a clock in beat. This particular clock has got the count wheel on the rear of the movement in accordance with the message I sent to the NAWCC. There's no real time frame that you could say when the manufacturers quit using the count wheel and went to a rack and snail, but for the most part they quit in around 1955. But this particular movement has got worn pivot holes on the time side at T1, as you can see, and T2, the pivot holes are worn. And I'm using this kind of stand to hold my movement. It's a pretty general purpose stand. It works okay. Got these little hooks. With the movement in the stand and the movement level, I'm not concerned whether it's level this way or not. But it is. But with the movement being level this way, what you're bending is the crutch wire, which comes out of the movement. You want to bend it between this area where it comes out of the movement and the foot. The foot is required to be at 90 degrees. I'm going to see if I can get this thing back in beat again. Stand by. As you can see, it's ticking away. Now, if I was to bend the crutch wire in the middle, putting my two fingers where it comes out of the movement and the foot, and bend the crutch wire to the right a little bit, I'm going to tilt the movement to the left. Again, this is just for showing you what to do. With the movement tilted, I'm going to grab a hold of stand and tilt the movement toward the left. And the leader wire starts ticking again. That means that I'm going to have to bend the crutch wire toward the way I tilted it, as viewing this from the rear. So I'm going to go ahead and straighten the movement out again, make it level. Kind of hard to do all this stuff on camera. Stand by. Okay, I got the movement level again. So because I had to tilt the movement to the left, I'm going to bend the crutch wire in the middle between this section coming out of the clock and the foot. I'm going to bend it toward the way I had to tilt it. And as you can see, it's ticking away again. And so you want to bend it toward the way that you tilted, as reviewing from the rear. If you were doing this, if you're viewing it from the front, you tilt it to the left. You want to bend the crutch wire in the opposite direction as the way you tilted it. And never, ever bend the crutch wire up here Bending this back and forth will break the crutch wire off. The crutch wire is welded to the verge, and so do not bend the crutch wire up here. Bend it between the bend that's coming out of the movement and the foot itself. You also want to make sure that the birch and crutch assembly is free of the low note lever, which is the top lever here, or the smallest lever, and the high note lever, which is the bottom lever here, which is the longer lever, and it's free away from the hammer. This post is coming out of the movement. You want to make sure, and that the leader wire is connected to this loop. You want to make sure that this loop is spread enough to where it's touching the main wire that's connected to the post. If this wire was squeezed together, your clock wouldn't run. The birch assembly, birch and crutch assembly, and it has the foot right here that's supposed to be 90 degrees. It has to be separated enough to allow this pendulum leader wire to bounce back and forth on it, which gives it the inertia to tick. And you want to make sure that the pendulum leader wire itself is straight. If it's got bends in it, it's going to cause you problems and it will not tick. So with the leader wire ticking away, I can put the pendulum assembly back on and the clock will stay running. Because this is a one-day movement and because it has pivot wears, you can get your clock to run even without having to put bushings in for the pivot wear I showed you. If it was an 8-day clock, if it has those pivot, the pivot hole wear, you have to put bushings in because the power of the 8-day clock will not allow you to have that pivot wear. So because it's a one-day clock, you can get away with a lot of pivot wear. There has been cases where I've had to put bushings in a one-day clock, but in most cases you can get away with pivot wear. Should you go ahead and put bushings in? Yes, because in the long run, with the pivot wear that you have, it's going to create more damage in that hole. So yes, you should put bushings in, but yes, you can get away with a pivot wear on a one-day clock. I hope this helps. I hope I explained everything. Again, in order to get the leader wire to swing back and forth, like I showed you, the clock has to be serviceable to the point where it's clean and there's no damage to the pivots themselves. If the pivots are bent, you're not going to be able to get it to do this. If you got hair and grime and rust, you're not going to be able to get it to do this. If you have a fishing line stuck in there, you're not going to be able to get it to do this. I can adjust it just a little bit here. That's better. Well, but anyway, I hope this helps. You guys take care and God bless.